My boss wanted everything done by the book, so that's exactly what I did. By noon, the entire hospital lab was shut down, the doctors were panicking, and the man who'd spent months micromanaging every breath I took couldn't even look me in the eye. And the best part? I didn't break a single rule. If you've ever had a boss who drove you insane with pointless rules, this story's for you. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's dive into a day when I used my boss's own words to bring an entire department to a standstill. I work as a lab technician at a hospital in Milwaukee. It's one of those jobs where precision matters, where you don't have to deal with the chaos of the ER, but you know the work you're doing could save someone's life upstairs. Most days I like the routine. The hum of the centrifuges, the faint smell of disinfectant, the quiet chatter of my coworkers. It wasn't glamorous, but it was good, honest work. And then there was Derek, my supervisor. The man was a walking anxiety attack. Always hovering, always panicking, always convinced that if one thing went wrong, the state inspectors would show up and shut us down forever. He was the kind of guy who thought control was the same thing as competence. And he'd remind you every 5 minutes that he was the supervisor, as if the title alone made him smarter. For months, I bit my tongue. I followed his nitpicky demands, smiled when he over-explained things I already knew, and tried not to let him ruin my day. But 2 weeks ago, he took things too far. The state inspectors came through for their annual visit. Normally, we pass with flying colors, but you'd think the world was ending based on how Derek reacted. He was running around the lab like his hair was on fire, checking labels, rewriting schedules, and practically interrogating us about safety procedures. We passed the inspection, of course, but instead of relaxing, Derek doubled down. That Friday morning, he sent an all-caps email to the entire department. It read, "From now on, we're doing everything by the book. Zero shortcuts. No exceptions. No context, no discussion, just pure micromanaging energy." Everyone rolled their eyes, but something about that email stuck with me. Because if Derek really wanted everything done by the book, maybe I should take him at his word. That weekend, curiosity got the best of me. I pulled out our dusty, outdated safety manual, the one buried in a drawer that no one had touched since the 90s. Most of it was harmless, old procedures, weird formatting, half the pages still referring to equipment we didn't even use anymore. But then I found it. Our sterilization protocol. According to the official manual, each piece of equipment had to undergo 8 full hours of UV sterilization between uses. 8 full hours. We had 6 machines. We ran around 40 tests a day. I did the math, and the numbers were laughable. If we followed that rule to the letter, we'd be able to run maybe 3 tests a day total. That's when the idea started forming in my mind. Not out of spite, but out of poetic justice. If Derek wanted to enforce every outdated rule, then fine, I'd give him exactly what he asked for. Monday morning, I came in early and started the first UV cycle right on time. I logged it, time-stamped it, and followed the manual word for word. When Derek walked in a few hours later, he looked around the lab, confused. Nothing was running. No samples were processing. Just the steady hum of the sterilization unit. He asked why I wasn't working, and I calmly told him that the equipment had to sit for 8 hours, just like the manual required. And since he'd made it clear we were doing everything by the book, I wasn't taking any shortcuts. You could practically see the panic forming behind his eyes. He didn't know what to say. He tried to argue, but the email and the manual spoke for themselves. There was nothing he could do. By late morning, every machine in the lab was busy sterilizing. The tests started piling up. The phone wouldn't stop ringing. Doctors were demanding results, and Derek was losing it. He started calling anyone who would answer, the department head, compliance, maintenance, anyone who could bail him out of this mess. When the department head came down, I showed them the same manual Derek had forced on us. And sure enough, the rule was right there in black and white. That's when the real kicker came out. Apparently, that rule was supposed to have been updated in 2015, but it never was. It had just sat there, collecting dust for nearly a decade. So compliance had to rush through an emergency protocol update. But until that happened, everything had to stop. We couldn't process a single non-emergency test for the rest of the day. The hospital lab, the one that usually buzzed with life and precision, went completely silent. And Derek? He just sat at his desk, staring blankly at his monitor, pretending to type. You could feel the embarrassment radiating off him. The next morning, everything was back to normal. The new sterilization rules were updated, and the lab was running again. But Derek wasn't the same. He didn't look me in the eye. He didn't micromanage anymore. He didn't send any more all-caps emails. He learned his lesson quietly, painfully, and completely by the book. That morning, my coworker Amanda walked by and handed me a cup of coffee. She smiled and said, "Nice work yesterday." We both laughed, and that was that. No shouting, no arguments, no revenge plot worthy of a movie. Just a calm, quiet moment where karma did all the talking. Sometimes, revenge doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't need to yell or scheme. Sometimes, all it takes is doing exactly what you're told, and letting the truth reveal just how ridiculous your boss really is. So tell me, have you ever had a boss who made your life miserable with pointless rules? Drop your story in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this one, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply doing your job perfectly.